Before we get to the practical case studies, a little about the theory of the Significant Biological Special Program, SBS, of the striated muscles. The SBS is one of the functional failures controlled by the cerebral cortex red group. The DHS, the Dirk-Hammer syndrome, is often an event such as not being able to escape a situation, not being able to hold on to something or fight something off, which starts a motor conflict. It can affect the entire musculature in a generalized manner, but can also have a local impact. As with all SBS, the conflict occurs completely synchronously on the three levels of psyche, brain, and organ. The DHS begins the conflict active phase. In the psyche of the affected person, there are obsessive thoughts about their conflict. What is happening is bothering him, and he is looking for a solution. In the brain, you can see the active hammer focus in the cerebral cortex. This ensures that the conduction of stimuli into the affected muscles is reduced and the function of the affected muscles is therefore organically impaired. The physical characteristics depend on the intensity of the conflict and the duration of the conflict. They range from almost symptomless, barely noticeable restrictions to symptoms of paralysis in a wide variety of forms. This includes, for example, the conventional medical condition of multiple sclerosis. It is an active motor conflict plus an active collapse in self-esteem. If the movement conflict is resolved, the affected person enters the healing phase. He is now mentally liberated. The stone has fallen from the heart. The obsessive thinking is over and the person concerned is doing well mentally. In the first part of the healing phase, fluid retention occurs in the hammer focus in the brain. This organically leads to a further, now noticeable, deterioration in the function of the affected muscles, as the conduction of stimuli is even more hindered by the swelling. In conventional medicine, to stick with the MS case example, we speak of an MS attack. The epileptoid crisis in motor conflict is a seizure. The type of seizure provides clues to DHS. To put it simply, you can say that the person affected is replaying what happened to them. The liquid is squeezed out in the hammer focus. The swelling goes down. In the second part of the healing phase, the hammer focus is repaired with connective tissue cells, the so-called glia. The swelling disappears completely and the conduction of stimuli into the muscles returns. In the end, the muscle function is completely normal again with a single uninterrupted SBS. The biological meaning of this program lies in the play-dead reflex of the active phase. For better understanding, I will now give a practical case example. Our daughter started having salam convulsions when she was 7 months old. Salam convulsions, in German known as BNS, which is the abbreviation for Blitzkrieg Salam. The term describes a seizure disorder in which the child is subjected to uncontrolled muscle spasms. The clinical picture describes lightning-like sudden bending movements of the head and torso, Blitznicken, lightning knot, as well as a circular bringing together of the arms in front of the face. The latter is similar to the Oriental greeting and therefore gave rise to the term salam. These lightning knot salam convulsions occur in volleys and a series can contain up to over 60 convulsions. Our daughter always had 4 to 5 seizures with a series of 20 to 30 cramps per day. At her peak, she was having over 160 BNS seizures per day while on the medication. The convulsions occurred while she was fully conscious. Since the medications administered did not bring any improvement and the side effects increased with each new medication, we wanted to taper them off. However, the doctors did not agree with this. We therefore agreed on the ketogenic diet as the next treatment attempt for which the medication had to be tapered off. The ketogenic diet was also unsuccessful. After completing this new experiment, our daughter did not receive any further conventional or alternative medicine. And what happened? Her seizures became fewer and even disappeared completely around the age of 5. Why? The epileptic replaced what happened to him. The DHS must have had something to do with the muscle groups affected by the BNS spasm. If a child wants to get off an adult's arm, but the adult doesn't let him or her, he or she will wriggle downwards like an eel, assuming the exact position of BNS spasms. The DHS must have struck my daughter the moment she was taken away from her mother by a doctor, immediately after birth, and given medical care behind closed doors in another room for 20 minutes. She couldn't free herself from the doctor's grip. That was their DHS. It doesn't matter that the doctor meant well. All that is relevant for that development is the child's feelings. The result of this was that her physical development lagged behind in the first few months of life. For example, she couldn't support herself or turn. She would just lay flat on her stomach. During this time, the pediatrician discovered that the chest muscles were too weak. It is clear that she was in the active phase of a motor conflict, and the progressive paralysis of the affected muscle groups made it impossible for her to turn and support herself. However, she was able to resolve their conflict. How? I don't know. Around the 7th month, the BNS seizures started. And with the seizures, the innervation of the muscles came back. She began to support herself and turn, quickly caught up with the motor deficit, and learned to walk according to her age. But why did her convulsions only stop at the age of 5? And that without medication, therapies, or other experimental remedies? Because of the tracks. Try grabbing a 1-year-old child under the armpits and lifting him up, and try the same thing with a 5-year-old. The children simply get bigger and heavier. The armpit grip is a track that was programmed into the DHS for her. This track is of course activated more often in a toddler than in a 4-year-old. At some point you can no longer lift the child at all. No further tracks, no further cramps. Germanische Heilkunde is clear and logical. It's fascinating what Dr. Hamer discovered. Now to Marie Fredriksson. For this case study, it is also important to know that the fluid and connective tissue deposits in Hamer focus can be made more visible using iodine contrast medium. If these Hamer focus are discovered on a CT scan, conventional medicine speaks of brain tumors, which are treated with surgery, chemo, and radiation. Marie was born on May 30, 1958 in Ösjo, Sweden. As a singer and co-founder of the pop group Roxette, she has been known with titles such as Listen to Your Heart, The Look, Crash Boom Bang, and many more world famous. Her ordeal began on September 12, 2002 with an epileptic seizure. She was taken to hospital where the cause was diagnosed as a brain tumor. According to the doctors, she had a life expectancy of 1 to a maximum of 3 years. This was followed by conventional medical treatment. Marie had 3 brain operations, the tumor was bombarded with gamma rays, and she also received chemo in tablet form. At peak times, Marie had to swallow 50 tablets a day. 17 years later, on December 9, 2019, Marie Fredriksson died after a long struggle at the age of 61. Since Marie had suffered a seizure, she must have had a motor conflict and resolved it shortly before September 12, 2002, the time of her seizure. Before the solution, it must have had a conflict-active phase and a DHS, which the SBS started. The solution to a conflict is quite easy to find. I read from her biography, Marie Fredriksson, Listen to My Heart. Shortly before I got sick, we, Per and I, agree that a break from Roxette would be good for us. I asked for a meeting where we decided this. Per had the same opinion, so it wasn't a big deal and there was no disagreement. He almost seemed relieved. We just needed a little distance. We wanted to do the night of the proms and then take some time off. Night of the proms was supposed to be a finale of sorts, but that didn't happen. Instead, I got sick. For Marie, the planned end of Roxette was a solution and she entered the healing phase with the inevitable epileptic crisis, the seizure. So the conflict had to do with Roxette. What happened? In 1998, Roxette got a new producer, Michael Ilbert. Marie describes the new situation in her biography on pages 134 to 136. Ilbert didn't pay any attention to me. He was very headstrong and strong, and he only communicated with Per and Clarence. He treated me so harshly that he made me cry. Ilbert made me sing a song over and over again, and Per and Clarence didn't notice what was happening. That he undermined me. Nothing I did was any good. I lost all the security and happiness that singing had given me, and with it all my self-confidence. It doesn't take much imagination to put yourself in Marie's shoes and understand her situation. She, who made millions of people happy with her beautiful voice, will have caught DHS not being able to escape the situation during the studio recordings. There were 3 men, Per, Clarence and Michael Ilbert, and me. I ended up getting more and more left out. The men ruled, no one cared what I thought anymore. I lost interest, which led to me eventually leaving. Marie Fredriksson clearly just wanted to get away, to escape the situation. But she couldn't do that. Roxette was now a world-famous pop group with various commitments and dates. She had to be in the same situation again and again. When we recorded Room Service, which came out in 2001, I wasn't particularly interested anymore. I took a taxi to the studio and had the driver wait so that I didn't have to stay there a second longer than necessary. That says a lot about the mood that prevailed back then. When I read my diaries from 2000 or 2001, it could well be written from gig to gig that I found the gig terrible. I wrote about Seattle 2000. How much longer can I keep this up? I no longer wanted to do anything that had to do with Roxette. You can clearly see the conflict-active phase that has lasted over 3 years since 1998. It would be interesting to know whether motor limitations also became noticeable during this time. The Roxette separation was a solution to her motor conflict, with the fatal discovery for Marie of the Hammer focus, the conventional medical brain tumor after the seizure.